Shabbat Shalom. Today we're in the midst of the counting of the Omer. We counted 49 days. We count 49 days from the second day of Passover to Shavuot. Yet it's also a time of mourning. And the reason we're in a time of mourning is because in the first century there was a great wealthy Jewish person who had a shepherd. And this shepherd, his name was Akiva. And Akiva would take care of 10 of the sheep. Very pious man, but very ignoramus. He was illiterate. And the daughter of the wealthy man saw that there was something special about this Akiva. So she approached him and he said, I think you would do very good if you went to school and started studying and learning all about the Jewish tradition, about Torah, how to read and so on. And he says, me, I'm 40 years old. I can't read Hebrew. There's no hope for me. And she kept asking him, and finally she said, if you go to this yeshiva, if you go to study in the academies, I'm going to marry you. One day, he was tending to sheep and he saw a creek and he saw water dripping. And he noticed that the water was dripping and dripping and dripping, as we have over here, the water dripping this beautiful rainy day in Santa Fe. And he noticed that the water bore a hole in a rock. And he realized that after time, over and over again, the water keeps dripping. Finally, you could make a hole even in a strong surface as a rock. And he thought, if the water can make a hole in the rock, the wisdom could come into my head as well. And he made a commitment to her. They got married. And her father disowned her. This wealthy man disowned her because she married a shepherd, a simple shepherd. They lived in poverty, but then she encouraged him and he went to study in the academies, in the great academies of Torah. He was there for 24 years and he came back a great scholar. Not only had he studied much, but he also taught, and they kept upgrading him, and people started coming to hear his wisdom, and he amassed 24,000 students. He became known as Rabbi Akiva. When he came back to his city, they made a big parade, and she came out to greet him, his wife, and he told the students, this woman is the impetus for everything that we know. She is your reason for studying and knowing all the knowledge of Torah. Let's give her honor. Unfortunately, these great students of Rabbi Akiva died in a plague between Passover and Shavuot, 1 year. Our sages say, in the Talmud says, that the reason they passed away was they were not respectful enough to each other. They didn't accord enough respect as they should have the students of the disciples of Rabbi Akiva. And therefore we mourn them, we don't take haircuts, we don't get married, we don't listen to live music, and the period between Passover and Shavuot is a time to reflect. Specifically, we reflect on how we're doing with Ahavat Yisrael, treating each other with kindness and love. In this week's Torah reading, which again is a double portion, Acharei and Kedoshim, we will read about many, many mitzvot, many laws, many rituals, many important things. There's one line that stands out. That is, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should love your fellow as yourself. This great Rabbi Akiva said, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. That's a great principle in the Torah, which means that we have the ability to love each other. We have the ability to be kind to each other, especially as Jews together, because we are one. Because we have this soul that's unique and that's bond, that's really one soul. If we are kind to others, we'll love ourselves even more. Let's have Ahavat Yisrael and express it to each other. We'll find more love within ourselves as well. And the Torah continues and tells us, perhaps that principle is sometimes hard to achieve, to love someone as yourself, but the Torah gives us specific details of how to try to achieve it in minor ways, slowly but surely. Not to hold a grudge, not to take revenge, not to lie, not to steal, of course. Simple, important mitzvot that altogether create and bring out that love. Let us be like Rabbi Akiva. Let us find the love within each other, reach out to somebody, and be loving kindness. May we have a Shabbat Shalom and enjoy this great Earth Day weekend in Santa Fe.